So I was concerned. I was also hoping like it could have just been like a really bad tweak, but like honestly right when it happened, I knew something was seriously wrong. It was like it felt like an explosion almost. And the classic thing is like, did you hear a pop? Did you feel a pop? And I definitely felt a pop
Yeah,
like right away. So I think I knew, and then you did the not sure what the test is
yeah.
called, but
Did
you were
the
the one.
anterior drawer, and then we did a Lockman,
Yeah.
and there was
And
certainly some laxity there down in the ski patrol.
so I think I saw it on your face.
Yeah.
Like, uh-oh.
Uh,
Hello, and welcome to the Adventure RX podcast, brought to you by Pinpoint Physical Therapy. I'm your host, Dr. Nick Anderson, orthopedic physical therapist by trade and an active skier, whitewater paddler, and I enjoy running. In today's episode, I had a chance to chat with my younger brother, Josh Anderson, who's an avid freestyle skier and founder of the BagO'Tricks, a skiing tutorial and vlog channel. Please enjoy this conversation about skiing progression and the implications of ACL recovery.
all right, guys, we're live. This is Adventure RX podcast. This is Dr. Nick Anderson with Pinpoint Physical Therapy. First podcast going for myself, so pretty exciting. We'll see how this goes. First guest is my younger brother and his little kitty cat behind him there. This is Josh Anderson, the owner, CEO of the BagO'Tricks, the bot fam, where we'll get into that a bit more as we go, and talk some PT, talk some skiing, and see what we can get into today. How's it going, Josh?
Good, man. Happy to be here. Episode 1. It's pretty exciting to be the inaugural guest, so
The
appreciate you
inaugural.
having me.
A little less pressure having family on for the first one.
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
not as much of a talker as you, on the YouTube channel. That's growing like crazy. I want to get into some more of the dirt of the bag of tricks. Give me the brief history if our guests haven't heard of you before, and what you're all about and why you keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, so BagO'Tricks started actually like 10 years ago now, which is crazy to think about.
That's insane.
We'd been, me, you, some of our other buddies growing up, were always filming skiing and all kinds of stuff and making YouTube videos. And then at one point, I think freshman year of college, I was like, all right, can we do this in a way that's, more professional, that could help people out, something that could end up growing into what it grew into. And so I made just one tutorial video because back then there wasn't really many ski tutorial channels out there. So I just made a basic how to slide a rail on skis video. That was the first one ever. Posted it on Reddit. I think it blew up on Reddit and then it blew up on YouTube. And then from there it was just kind of, grinding out tutorial videos for the first few years and then slowly worked into more vloggy style videos. And 10 years later, still doing it. It's definitely evolved and changed with TikTok and Instagram and everything coming online. It's more short form now, but it's just been a wild ride. You've been a part of it.
Yeah,
A
man.
lot of kind of meetups with subscribers now every time I go out and ski, and just seeing the effect like all these tutorial videos, trick tip videos have had has been super cool. So keeps me going for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fun to see the growth of that. That first video you made, we look back on it, and it wasn't the best video ever made.
No.
But yeah, it's great when I'm sure you see, a lot of the youngins out there trying to learn how to ski and getting through the struggle of learning park skiing, especially. I know I wish when we were growing up, when I first started freestyle skiing, there was nothing. I mean, it was what, X Games once a year, level
Yeah.
one, Warren Miller, Step would release one video a year. And that's when we saw the progression. It's so much different now with Instagram and all the Insta bangers on TikTok, and how the level of skiing has progressed so high where, you have these amateurs out in Park City that would win X Games if it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Any of the riders out there, it's just really, really insane. What drove you, initially, you started snowboarding when you were younger. What drove you toward the park skiing scene and especially making the content?
Yeah, I think, like you said, I started skiing when I was little, and then Shaun White kind of started blowing up when I was in like middle school, and that was like the coolest thing watching Shaun White in the
Yeah,
Olympics.
Shaun White.
So I made the switch to snowboarding for a little bit there, probably like 4 or 5 years, and then I think it was like watching Dumont, watching just ski edits coming out. Like you said, Step was a big one that we used to watch, and just something about skiing in the park looked more fun to me, and it started growing on me. Like, I don't know, one year I was like, yeah, I might ski, and then that off season I watched a bunch of more edits, and I was like, all right, this year I'm gonna like ski a little bit, snowboard a little bit. And I think the first day on skis I was like, all right, we're just gonna ski all season. I don't think I'm gonna snowboard at all. But yeah, I think snowboarding kind of started it all off in the park, and then at some point skiing really gained steam, and that's kind of what I saw and why I got so hyped on it.
Yeah, I think it was a perfect storm when you start having those Tanner Hall versus Dumont pipe battles, big air battles, and then you had the young bloods like Schiller and Schlopey, you had Wallish, some of these guys that start competing in X Games, but then that's when YouTube started coming around. You had the
Yeah,
GoPro, Abe Kislovich on YouTube.
huge inspiration,
Abe was a
Abe.
big inspiration with those GoPro videos with Wallish especially. I think it was good timing. I remember that first season you were on skis, and I think you threw a flip or something. I think maybe you and Mitch both threw some flips, and it's like, yeah, you're stuck now. You're stuck on the planks. No,
Yeah,
for
just
sure.
I think it felt more natural right off the bat. I had done some inline skating, so I could slide rails on inlines, and then throwing on skis was pretty similar. And then when you get into like jump tricks and flips, we were always on the trampoline growing up, so to translate that to skiing made a lot more sense to me than snowboarding where you're riding sideways. So I think I just got hooked. I saw the progression take off way faster than snowboarding, and just that was it. It was all skiing from there.
Yeah, I think there's something about having four edges too, especially rail skiing.
Hmm.
I don't want to say there's more variety, but there kind of is, right? In skiing compared to boarding, you know.
I mean, yeah, like the switch up, the technicality I would say is a lot higher on skiing, especially on rails. Jumps I would say it's about equal, but I just feel like there's so many things you can do on a rail. I mean, I guess you can do it on a snowboard. It's just really difficult compared to
Right.
what skiing is.
And definitely not bashing borders. Nothing better than a nice front board, lip front board, nothing wrong with that at all. Nothing
I
wrong with
will
that
say
at all.
I think skiing has more tech. I think snowboarding will always have more style.
Well, you even see it in the street segments that get put out. I feel like boarding is always a decade ahead almost
Yeah.
of who's releasing stuff now. You got some of the new groups, Level One, still putting out their videos. But yeah, for sure, for sure. How cool was it meeting some of these guys out west? We've met a handful of we've met Wallish, we've met Tanner Hall briefly, a few other high level skiers that have recognized the channel. Like how cool was that?
Yeah, I think the craziest thing for me, I spent a week out in Salt Lake 2 winters ago, and I would just be cruising the park, Three Kings, and see some kid throwing like dub corks, and he would roll up to me and be like, "Yo, it's the BagO'Tricks. What's up, man?" And it at first I was like, "Why? If you're this good, if you're on your way to being a pro park skier, why would you watch my videos, which are just teaching like the basics of the basic?" And then I realized like, man, I've been doing this like 8 years, so this 18-year-old might have watched my video when he was 10, trying to figure out how to hit a rail. And
Yeah,
okay, like I helped him way back then, and he's progressed to this crazy level. And it started to make a lot more sense. So I think that's been the coolest thing. Obviously, meeting pro guys and LJ Stranio with Line, he's been a huge supporter, and it's always good to see him. Um, yeah, I think that was the craziest thing, just seeing these younger kids, 16, 17, 18, that probably watched a video way back when and took it and ran with it to a level that I could never imagine myself getting to is pretty awesome.
yeah, you get those kids that move out west and They just get exponentially better and leave us East Coasters, Midwesters in the dust, to each their own. But we're still shredding. We're still at least maintaining our skills for now.
Yeah.
A lot of rail skiing for sure, lower impact for the old
Yeah.
for the
I think we both hit a point where we're like progression. Still try to progress when we can, but there's definitely a limit on what we're willing to try nowadays.
Yeah, I think my goal every year is to land the same stuff I did the previous year.
Hmm.
And then if I can do that, maybe a couple variations of rail tricks is always my goal. And I do 1 540 a year, one or two, just to prove that I can do it still. Yeah, that's what that looks like. Who's your skiing GOAT, greatest of all time? Got one name, and it can be whatever you feel like are the criteria. You tell me who's your GOAT and why.
Oh man, I got a favorite skier and I have like a goat, I think. My favorite skier would be LJ just cuz I just feel like his personality and like hype for the sport, especially in those traveling circus
Oh
episodes
yeah,
growing up, was just like on another level. Just
he's
seemed like the happiest dude, the
just a
best vibes out
normal
there.
guy, just a normal
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah. Just having a great time. I think my goat tough.
Yeah, it's insane.
Triple last year, a quad, something insane in the
Maybe.
backcountry.
Yeah.
So just to see that at age 40 plus and the way he just still has so much love for the sport is awesome.
Yeah, he's still pushing it. Yeah, what was it, a few years ago? He tried to flip onto some urban concrete feature and blew his Achilles, I think.
Yep, yeah, I think
Just
he was
insanity.
filming for Real Street, Real Ski,
Competing in
which
X Games still. Crazy.
at age 35 plus is just insane. So I
Insanity.
think as far as like the guy I can point to that loves park skiing and probably loves skiing more than anybody on planet Earth is it's got to be Tanner.
It's hard to imagine, because we love it so much, but he's just beat up so much, comes to a point where most people, we've seen it with our friends too, where they just kind of drop off
Yeah.
and they lose passion for it from injuries or from just getting old and getting busy with work and everything. It's really too bad our squad's kind of dwindled throughout the year, but now we got the ladies shredding, so that's been fun.
Yeah. Yeah, squad's evolving for sure. I
Well,
think, I
yeah,
mean, to be fair, like it's an expensive sport, and if you're somebody that is really, really averse to getting hurt, then it makes total sense to scale it back when you get older. But
absolutely. That makes sense. Well, going with that, we've each had our fair share of some orthopedic injuries. We're still skiing, and obviously we're a little smarter now with the days that we progress and the tricks we might be trying or not trying based on the conditions. When was your ACL injury? I forget what year that was. Was it
I think 20,
2021 maybe?
I think 2020,
2020.
2020,
So you're
yeah.
about 5 years out. Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, Josh was trying a cork 720, came up a little short, kind of back seat twisted. Which knee was it? The right knee,
Yep.
which is pretty typical for an ACL injury. That flexion twist action ended up full tear of the ACL, and we really grinded for about 12 months, rehabbed him back. That was in January, I believe, the injury, and you were on skis the following December, January, about a year later. That season was obviously a little bit slower for progression. Go back to that day, and we don't gotta get into the darkness of it too much. What was that like when that happened? Most skiers have had some knee dings and whatnot, and ACL is a very common injury. And I think it's almost blown out of proportion sometimes with the devastation of the injury, always needing surgery. And, the media loves to talk about the ACL. You hear about it a lot in the Premier League and in the NFL. Ski culture, it's just kind of accepted that almost every pro has had at least one ACL done. What was it like that day? And what were what put me in your mindset of that significant injury the day of?
Yeah, I think, like you said, it's over. It's a hyped up injury. I think as a skier, my up until that point, it was like my biggest fear was blowing my ACL. I always said like the last thing I want to do is blow my ACL.
Yeah, I remember you saying
Um,
that. Yeah.
yeah, and I think I was saying that like literally weeks before
Yeah, because
I
we had
blew
we had
it.
a trip planned out west.
Yeah. So, I mean, right in the moment, it hurt. I knew right away like that was worse than just a little tweak. And I think my brain went to like instantly I was worried about ACL because of how much it's talked about and how much people hype it up and how common it is at this point. So I was I was concerned. I was also hoping like it could have just been like a really bad tweak. But like honestly right when it happened, I knew something was seriously wrong. It was like it felt like an explosion almost. And the classic thing is like, did you hear a pop? Did you feel a pop? And I definitely felt a pop
Yeah.
like right away. So I think I knew. And then you did not sure what the test is
Yeah.
called, but
Did
you
the
were the one.
anterior drawer, and then we did a Lockman.
Yeah.
And there was certainly some laxity there down in the ski patrol.
So I think I saw it on your face.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Not
So
great.
definitely scary, I would say, because you hear about it, you know how long the rehab is. For somebody whose life isn't skiing, like yeah, the YouTube channel is big and takes a lot of my time, but it's not my job by any means. Just like regular life concerns, I was worried. You know, when you're a pro skier and you blow it, you're worried, can you get back to a pro skiing level?
Right.
But as kind of a normal person that enjoys skiing, I was more worried like how does this affect regular life before I even thought of skiing again.
And I think that's the biggest hurdle that I've seen with some of my patients, and I'm going through it now with my PCL sprain. It's learning how to do the basics again,
Hmm.
getting in and out of bed, getting on the toilet, getting in the shower, doing stairs, learning how to walk again. And everyone that goes through those injuries, even the pros, like, that's what they're doing for the first few months, like getting their knee bending again, getting their quads back, getting their hamstrings back. It's really a neurological injury. The research shows that it's more or less a neurological glitch in the system. A lot of the time, you see a lot of those weird like non-contact ones, versus yours was very forceful injury with the skiing. But it's really a neurological injury and a neurological rehab. You're retraining your brain to work on those motor systems. You got a new graft in there that doesn't have the same innervation as the normal ACL does, and the whole joint mechanics are off as you learn. But what would you say for you? What was the biggest challenge during that rehab process? Might be later on or the return to ski. What was your biggest challenge during that rehab process?
Yeah, so I think the PT I was sent to after surgery was like a return to sport, return to soccer specialist. So I was like, okay, we'll go to her. If I can return to soccer, I can probably return to skiing. It was only maybe 4 months in, and I was like hitting a limit of what I was able to do at that PT facility. And she basically told me like, you've passed my tests, but I wouldn't suggest you go ski. You need obviously a lot more work to do. So that was surprising. I figured I would be there all the way up until I skied, and it was kind of a short amount of time where I like they didn't have the weights I needed to do the strength training and everything.
Right.
So after that, you and I started kind of grinding in the gym and getting on our own program, and that ended up going really well. I think the toughest part was the first 3-4 days on skis were not fun. I remember, like, I think it was maybe the third day on skis, we were skiing like a little rail and just trying to see how it felt, see if I could get any type of tricks back. And if I landed a little bit backseat, it was just like very painful still. And it was to the point where I kind of started to think maybe the season was going to be a loss and like I could do groomers, just chill skiing. But it just, after all that rehab, to have the first few days of skiing where you're like, all right, I did it all, I'm back, like we're good. And then to have it not feel good was definitely tough.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough, when you get discharged from, traditional therapy because you can do all the basics. It's really, insurance doesn't really care if you can play soccer or go skiing. They care, can you get into your house? Can you go upstairs? Can you do the very basics? And that's where I kind of like to come in with more of the performance PT side of things. It's working with these athletes when they really got to get back to those higher level activities. And there's no way to simulate these sports other than practice and playing. You can do your best. Skiing's really tough, especially because you have to be on snow. But, even ball sports, basketball, soccer, and we've been ball sport athletes. There's a difference between practicing in PT, practicing with a team, and then actually playing. It steps up in speed and intensity. And yeah, it's frustrating. I think for a lot of the athletes, they expect to get back. They hear 6 months, and the re-tear rate for not only the surgical side but for the other side is so high, in especially younger athletes, because they're cleared for sport way too early. And research shows that anything before 9 months, 9 months should be the bare minimum that everyone should be rehabbing. And from there, it can take another year or two, as you experienced. You weren't back to 100%. You even see these NFL guys that they're the peak athletes, the best systems, best recovery in the world, and they don't look the same for 2.5 years, the next season after their surgery. So, yeah, 9 months should be the bare minimum. There's no replicating sports to 100%. You got to just get out there and start going at it.
Yeah. I think slowly and surely skiing more and more and more started to feel better. And then at some point it was that first season, maybe January, February, probably like February, I started to feel not 100% normal, but I wasn't in pain skiing, which
Right.
was huge.
Right. How is it feeling now? You're 4 years out from the surgery, fourth or
Yeah.
fifth season?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I don't really notice it all that much. I've got to the point, every year up until this year, I'd been using some type of brace while skiing, but we play soccer once a week, and it's not super high level, but it's enough to, if you're concerned about re-injuring, it's definitely enough to re-injure. And I hadn't been wearing a brace there, so no pain, really.
Nice.
Skiing and soccer, no pain at all. And then this year I actually ditched the brace for the first time skiing, so
No brace
been
this year?
feeling no brace. No
Nice.
brace.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and the only thing that is kind of cropped back up is a little tendonitis in that knee, but I'm not sure if that's surgery related, ACL related, or just from something else over the years. But
You got the itis,
yeah,
man.
the itis.
The itis is killer.
But yeah, I mean, feel strong, feel good. I feel like I have full range of motion back. And like I said, there's never a day where I'm like, oh, I really noticed my knee today. It's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah, I think you ended up being a better athlete after that process,
yeah, I would agree.
and that should be the goal.
I think it puts it in perspective. Like, you get hurt, you go through that rehab, and you realize what you weren't doing
Right.
before. And it's like, wow, if I don't want this to happen again, I should continue doing what I'm doing in this rehab. So that was big for me.
Yeah, it can be eye-opening. We're both in relatively good shape, but there's definitely levels to it. I would say with my knee right now, not that I was letting my fitness slip. Now, it's definitely eye-opening, like on the patient side. Me being a patient, it's like, well, when's the last time I really did train single leg plyometrics?
Mm-hmm.
Years, never.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that should
Yeah,
always be the
speak.
goal.
Speaking of,
be a better athlete.
yeah, speaking of your injury, what, talked about soccer a few times, had an unfortunate
Yeah.
fall during the game, but how's your own, as a PT, one thing that I'm interested in is if you're injured as a PT, what is it like to self-diagnose, to like, rehab yourself? Is that something that PTs do? Do you normally go to another PT for their opinion, or how does that work?
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on the extent of the injury. I think I do a pretty good job of self-diagnosing, and I can always text friends and call friends. We're all sports ortho guys and girls, so definitely good network there. As far as my self-rehab right now, I'm doing a lot of it myself, just doing the basics of getting mobility back, getting it bending. But then I'm going to be seeing, one of my friends who's a sports PT in a few weeks just to, be in patient mode. Like I just want to be able to turn my brain off and have another expert that I trust,
Right.
put me through the ringer and, really see where I'm at. Yeah, it can be tough. It's definitely like a pride thing too, where like this is what I do. I don't want to. It's like an accountant paying someone else to do their taxes,
Right.
or
Right.
a CPA. So, but again, being in that patient mode mindset, I think is really key. No matter if you're like a strength and conditioning specialist or a PT or an orthopedic physician, like it's okay to go get an external opinion and get some additional feedback.
Yeah. If I was in your position, I think what would happen for me is, especially with my recovery, is that when I'm testing myself for like those, like the hop test for the ACL, where you really should pass this before you start playing soccer or playing whatever you're going to do. If I were to do that as my own person, as my own PT, I feel like there's a chance that I could lie to myself in a way. Like, I do the hop test and I'm like, you know, that was good enough, and like I'm good to
Right.
come back.
Right. No,
So
yeah, totally. Again, you got to split your brain up into, and I tell this with my patients all the time. I'll have someone that will have, I'm working on their low back and they'll ask, "Can I go do my race in a week that I signed up for and I've been training for?" And I'll say, PT me says you probably shouldn't. Competitor and athlete me, if it was me, I'm doing it. Like,
yeah,
and then as the PT, I'll say, we can deal with the consequences after. This is something you absolutely need to do, want to do. I don't like to tell people no, but I'll be realistic with what that might entail as far as, increasing injury risk, flare-ups, kind of dealing with the consequences. So with the retesting return to sport, certainly like the athlete in me would be like, yeah, I'm good to go. It looks good. I did it. And the PT side of me would obviously be biased toward I'm not ready. I think that's why going to see someone that'll give you their honest feedback is really key. Especially the return to sport can be so finicky, and it's an area that orthopedic world where it's still learning about because the injury reoccurrence is so high, and a lot of these repairs and the knee injuries and the Achilles and shoulders. So yeah, it can be a tricky balance, balancing between the competitor wanting to get back to doing stuff and then, my clinical knowledge as well.
yeah,
Well, we're at about 30 minutes. I think that's a good point to call it here. We're going to try to keep these episodes right around 30 minutes, so easy to listen to. We'll put some show notes in the description for the BagO'Tricks and for my practice located in Cleveland, Ohio. Josh, thanks for doing this for me, buddy. It's always fun. We'll see you probably this weekend at some point.
yes, sir.
Continue the fun ski season. Keep it rolling.
Yep, appreciate it.
All right, we'll see you.
Later.